Alright gang, welcome to the Minutia Minute. Today we have the 2-cent piece. Now the 2-cent piece was initiated by the Act of April 22nd, 1864, signed by Abraham Lincoln, which changed the weight and composition of the 1 cent. But it also included a provision for a bronze 2-cent piece. The weight was specified as 96 grains and the alloy to be the same as the cent. Now, these coins were designed by James B. Longacre, who happened to be the 4th chief engraver of the U.S. Mint. Now, these coins were all minted at the Philadelphia Mint when it was located at Chestnut and Jupiter Streets. The motto, "In God We Trust," appeared for the first time on the new coin, due largely to increased religious sentiment during the American Civil War. The shield is very similar to that on the nickel 5-cent piece introduced in 1866. Alright gang, welcome to Reiser's Treasure Hunting Emporium's Minutia Minute! Anyway, hey, today we have America's first bank heist. Anyway, here we have the historic Carpenter's Hall, located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was completed in 1775, and it has been the site of many historic functions, including the First Continental Congress of the United Colonies, Franklin's Library Company of Philadelphia, American Philosophical Society, and 2 banks, the First Bank of the United States, but specifically for today's topic, the Bank of Pennsylvania. On September 2nd, 1798, the Bank of Pennsylvania was temporarily situated in Carpenter's Hall until its own building was finished on 3rd Street. Anyway, sometime that night, $162,821.61, basically $3.2 million in today's money, was stolen. Collectors and treasure hunters. Oh, can you imagine the gold pieces and silver pieces and early mintage that would have been? Oh my. Anyway, hey, back on topic. First suspicion fell upon a guy by the name of Pat Lyon, who was a blacksmith who had basically installed the vault doors with some new locks. It kind of was looking like an inside job, and it was. However, Mr. Lyon had an alibi, because after all, this is during the yellow fever epidemic. So Mr. Lyon and his apprentice had fled the city. They were in Lewis, Delaware. But anyway, the crime was actually committed by Isaac Davis, a member of the carpenters and bank porter Thomas Cunningham. He actually had the key. Officials became suspicious when Isaac Davis began depositing large sums of money. Ready? Back into the bank he had robbed. Anyhow, Isaac Davis never served a day in prison. A promise of a pardon for full cooperation and the return of the money kept Davis off the hook. Pat Lyon spent 6 months in the Walnut Street jail, and falsely accused, he sued the state of Pennsylvania for false imprisonment. The jury awarded him $12,000. Later, this was appealed, and the settlement was for $9,000. But anyway, this was enough to see the successful manufacturing business that would make him wealthy. Hence the portrait. The steeple seen in the background of the portrait is actually the cupola of the Walnut Street jail. Alright gang, hey, welcome to this edition of Minutia Minute. Alright gang, Cracker Jack, yes, that's right, the candy-coated popcorn, peanuts, and a prize confection. Frederick William Ruckheim, a German immigrant nicknamed Fritz, sold popcorn at 113 4th Avenue, now known as Federal Street, in Chicago, beginning in 1871. Then in 1873, Fritz bought out his partner, William Brinkmeyer, and brought his brother, Louis Ruckheim, over from Germany to form F.W. Ruckheim and Brother. In 1896, Brother Lewis discovered a method to separate kernels of molasses-coated popcorn during the manufacturing process. As each batch was mixed in a cement mixer-like canister, a small bit of oil was added. Previously, the mixture had been difficult to handle because it stuck together in globs and chunks. Anyway, in 1896, the first batch of Cracker Jack was produced. The same year it was registered. It was named by an enthusiastic sampler who remarked, "That's a Cracker Jack," utilizing the old colloquialism. In 1899, Henry Gottlieb Eckstein developed the wax-sealed package for freshness. In 1902, the company was reorganized as Ruckheim Brothers and Eckstein. The song "Take Me Out to the Ballgame," written by lyricist Jack Norworth and composer Albert von Tilzer, gave Cracker Jack free publicity when the song was released in 1908 with the line, "Take me out to the ballgame, take me out with the crowd, buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack, I don't care if I ever get back that." Prizes were included in every box of Cracker Jack since 1912. Some of these prizes even included baseball cards, such as those issued in 1914. Early toy prizes have included rings, plastic figurines, booklets, stickers, temporary tattoos, decoder rings, etc. Books have been written cataloging the prizes, and a substantial collector's market exists. Treasure! In 1922, the name of the company was changed to the Cracker Jack Company. Cracker Jack's mascots, Sailor Jack and his dog Bingo, were introduced as early as 1916 and registered as a trademark in 1919. The Cracker Jack Company was purchased by Borden Inc. in 1964. Borden, in 1997, sold the company to PepsiCo, who incorporated it with their Frito-Lay portfolio. Alright gang, welcome to the Minutia Minute. Anyway, during George Washington's presidency, the Coinage Act was passed by the United States Congress on April 2nd, 1792. It established the United States dollar as the country's standard unit of money, established the United States Mint, and regulated coinage of the United States. Not to mention making a decimal system for U.S. currency. And for you, any of you folks who have ever tried to figure out colonial pounds, shillings, etc., I, for one, am grateful for the decimal system. The United States dollar, the act pegged the newly formed currency to the Spanish silver dollar, even though the weight values were slightly different. The act also authorized construction of a mint building in Philadelphia, then the nation's capital. This was the first building erected under the United States Constitution. Mint director, appointed by George Washington, David Rittenhouse laid the building's cornerstone on July 31st, 1792 at 7th and Filbert Street. This mint building was in use until 1833. The building was demolished between 1907 and 1911. Anyway, gang, have a look at the early coins presented here.
When you're gone, I want to run from all the world. I'm like a stranger and I'm so forlorn when you're with somebody else. Each night and day, the skies are gray, the birds, the bees, the trees, the summer breezes fade away when you're with somebody else. It's hard to care and have to share the love that I've known. Oh, baby, can't you see I want you all for my own? And I know that love's a game, but who's to blame? I hope and I pray and I keep on wondering if you feel the same when you're with somebody else.
Alright, gang, welcome to Minutia Minute. Anyway, gang, shave and a haircut, 2 bits. Now, in music, the call, shave and a haircut, and the associated response, 2 bits, is a simple 7-note musical couplet, riff, or fanfare popularly used for comic effect. This can be heard anywhere from cartoons to car horns. 2 bits is an archaism, an old-fashioned or antiquated term once used in the United States for 25 cents. The term bit in colonial times refers to a coin being cut in order to make intermediate values. More specifically, the Spanish pieces of 8 or Spanish dollar, real, would be cut to make these more nominal values. Those values were typically 8 bits was equal to a whole, 4 bits, half, 2 bits, 1/4 real, and 1 bit, 1/8 of a real. Now, the Coinage Act of 1792 pegged the value of the newly created United States dollar to the value of the Spanish real, or their dollar. Henceforth, 2 1/8 bits of a real equals 1/4, or 25 cents. Alright, gang, travel along with us to the historic Walnut Street Theater in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The Reisers were on the way to see a show, but you, however, will get a bit of history. I tricked my treasure into going to see a show in a historic theater. Win-win. Anyhow, the Walnut Street Theater is said to be the oldest continuously operating theater in the English-speaking world, and the oldest in the United States. The theater was built in 1807 by the Circus of Pepin and Breschard. Through the early part of the 19th century, the name of the theater evolved from the New Circus to the Olympic to the Walnut Street Theater, back to the Olympic, and to the American Theater, then permanently back to the Walnut Street Theater. The Walnut was innovative. It was the first theater to install gas footlights in 1837, and also the first to feature air conditioning in 1855. The theater converted to electric chandeliers and footlights in 1892. Since its opening, the Walnut has had many improvements and renovations. The first theatrical production was The Rivals in 1812. Thomas Jefferson and the Marquis de Lafayette were in attendance. In 1865, Edwin Booth, that's right, brother of John Wilkes Booth, and John Sleeper Clark purchased the theater. By 1941, the theater became part of the Schubert organization and housed many pre-Broadway tryouts there. Such classics like A Streetcar Named Desire, Mr. Roberts, Gigi, A Raisin in the Sun were all first fine-tuned and tweaked there before being performed on Broadway. Stars from Helen Hayes to the Marx Brothers to Henry Fonda to Sidney Poitier traipsed across the stage at Walnut. Since 1966, Walnut Street Theater was designated as a National Historic Landmark, and in 1969, the theater was purchased by a non-profit organization and turned over to the New Walnut Street Theater Corporation. In the fall of 2008, the theater celebrated its 200th season of live entertainment. The Walnut Street Theater is a marvel of that it's not only rich in history, but it still functions in its original purpose. Hey, gotta get to the Walnut and see a show. Curtains opening, gotta go.